Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the first of a series of dialogues that are really designed to bring the city and its residences, homes, and businesses to full electrification. That's a concept that I'll be explaining in a little bit. I'll explain why it's so important. I think it's ultimately impossible to avoid. But I'm also encouraged to say that I think there is a path for us to achieve it. So before I dive into all of that, I just want to introduce ourselves. I'm Dick Haskell. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Sustainable Claremont. And Char Miller is also, raise your hand please. Many of you may know Char. He has been a longtime leadership figure in the environmental analysis program of Pomona College. And let's see, Kathy May is a longtime teacher of AP Environmental Science. Let's go with that. And also a member of the city's Sustainability Committee. And I'm looking for our other member, Jim, not here yet. I'm sorry?
Ross is here.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll get to Ross in just a second when I get to our co-sponsors. So we have actually a team of four. Three of us are on the Sustainability Committee of the city. And that has been our source of a lot of data. I'm mentioning that. We are here not representing the committee itself, but we are here as individuals having learned from our participation on the committee. We also have another member of the committee here, but I don't think we have a quorum yet. Yes, we don't have a quorum yet, that's true. I also want to point out, aside from this team of four who are going to be pushing probably three more dialogues. And this is actually the first dialogue since 2019, in person in this room. Before that, there were over 100 in this room. So this is really an exciting time for us. I also want to point out that this room, Han 101, is courtesy of Pomona College and the Sustainability Office and the EA program, which I just mentioned earlier. But also we have a collaboration with Claremont Streets for People, and Ross Pringle is right here. Thank you for coming, Ross. And please correct me if I say something inappropriate here. But we early on, I'm getting some advice from my wife in the back, early on discovered that the footprint of the city as a whole, the carbon footprint, is really determined by two factors primarily. One is transportation, and the other is building emissions of greenhouse gases using various forms of energy, in particular natural gas. We do have a quorum. We have actually managed to hammer out an agreement. And Ross, can you tell us do you have a date for the first dialogue in this companion series of dialogues, or not yet? Okay, okay. So stay alert for that. I think the mission of Claremont Streets for People is very broad. It has a lot of good stuff in it. Underlying it all is, in fact, a tendency then to reduce the greenhouse, the carbon footprint of the city. And so that's why we thought together we could work more or less in parallel to bringing the carbon footprint of the city as close to zero as we can. Okay, I think where to go? Thank you. Let me just get back to full electrification. What is it? It's really just running your house or business on electricity alone. No natural gas consumed. If you use natural gas, you create CO2 and water. But in particular, it's always going to produce some CO2, which is a greenhouse gas. And that's what we're battling with now with climate change. So I want you to look, this is data taken from the data for the city of Claremont. And when I say the city of Claremont, I mean the whole community, including the buildings of the city. So everything in the city is included in this graph. And if you look at just the top two, the total gas and total electricity, just these two for the moment, notice that total gas is always lying above the total electricity, so that the city has, over here in 2024, actually brought in more energy in the form of natural gas from SoCal Gas. 27% more energy than we brought in from SCE of electricity. That means, you know, we've really, while we have been working on electricity very hard, and I think somewhat successfully, as we'll see in a second, we have a real problem here. The total gas consumption has bumped around, but it's not. There's not an overall decrease here. So let me just go from, let me just go to look at the components of the electricity that we use as a city. There are two. There's the green renewable electricity and the black non-renewable electricity. The renewable electricity is generated with solar, wind, small hydro, a variety of things, but they are renewable energy resources. The non-renewable, on the other hand, is historically been pretty much burning natural gas to generate our electricity. And you can see an interesting, and it's really rather prominent, trend. Non-renewable electricity has been going down since 2011 to 2024. And while renewable energy has been going up and crosses over in this very interesting region right here, and is now sitting at this electricity, this renewable electricity is 71% of the total electricity, and hence this is 29%. So we're really, and you can see it's definitely crossed over and is dominant. In fact, if you were to do any sort of extrapolation, which would be a sort of rough extrapolation, but nevertheless, you could see that the renewable electricity, if you go out a couple years, we're going to be bumping up close to 100% electricity. Now, we'll never really get there, but it is, I think, notable that we are close in the near future. We're going to be close to 100% renewable electricity, which means as long as we're using electricity, fully electrifying our homes, we will be free of greenhouse gas emissions. So back to total gas. Maybe I should give you a sense of what these numbers mean. So in 2018, this data point represents 36% of the total electricity, and here it's 71%. So you can see in this transition, we've essentially doubled the renewable electricity percentage. This region right in here is in 2019, the city joined Clean Power Alliance, and so we were able to draw upon Clean Power Alliance for some of our electricity. And in the early part of 2022, so that would be right about here, just after 2021, the early part of 2022, the City Council passed a resolution to move everyone who is in CPA, that is anyone who is in Clean Power Alliance, move it up to the greenest level of their rate product. And with the option, you could opt back out to whatever you want, or even opt back to sustainable, to Southern California Edison. Interestingly enough, even though at the time, I'll have to confess, I was one of, here's Sorrel. Sorrel and I were the two people who actually started this rolling and got a lot of support afterwards. But I was feeling a little guilty about being sneaky with the opt-out routine. But as it turned out, 95% of the folks who were opted up, or that is moved up, just stayed there. And I think for all the right reasons. So it's really led to this transition, and what we want to do now is use full electrification to do the same thing to natural gas. It's not going to make it renewable natural gas, it's just going to cut it to zero. All right. So let me say, if you have questions, Tad?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the top, what is in parentheses MKW?
Thank you for mentioning it. These numbers are so, I mean, the scale of this graph is so huge. That's millions of kilowatt hours. And we're plotting hundreds of millions of kilowatt hours. So if you know anything about this, the units here, basically we're plotting in gigawatts, gigawatt hours. So these are huge numbers, and if you were to follow just this from 2018, look at the decay from 2018 to 2024 is about 83 million kilowatt hours reduction. And if you go to EPA, the equivalencies app, and ask, well, what does that really mean in real terms? It says that it's 9,765 automobiles that are gasoline propelled, passenger vehicles, that you would take them off the road for a year. So, you know, I'm not sure you can really picture 9,765 automobiles, but the numbers here are so large that it's encouraging to see that we could get this far just by moving the renewable energy up, or renewable electricity up. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Well, it's encouraging to show that renewable has increased. The gas hasn't really decreased.
Yes, that's exactly the point.
That's why we're here.
Yes. And you know, we on the Sustainability Committee saw this and we said, really, it's about 10 million therms a year and has been since 2003. We have data even further back, and it hasn't changed much. You know, it's bumping around, but it's not really changing. So thank you for that. Okay. So let me just tell you what we're trying to do with this series of dialogues. We'll actually get, before we close here, oh, this is good. We'll talk about heat pumps for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And that is, I think, the hottest topic right now. The state of California had for a long time serious rebates for anyone who is going to replace their gas furnace with a heat pump. And we'll go into more detail about why that makes a lot of sense. We will then have a second, you know, at a date to be announced. We'll look at heat pumps for water heaters. And that may surprise you, but it turns out that my wife and I now have one in our home, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And they're very efficient, and we'll see why. A third dialogue will actually be focused on induction cooktops, trying to get rid of gas range. Again, in our home, we loved our 1950s gas range, and with an oven that you had to light with a long, that's a long story, anyway. So we now have an induction cooktop, and we wish we had changed long ago. And the last dialogue will look at heat pumps for clothes dryers. And there are that's a point where there are a lot of surprises in heat pumps for clothes dryers. We got one ourselves, and I was looking in the installation instructions for the pipe that takes, you know, the lint and everything out and blows it out into your neighbor's yard. There was no instructions for installing that pipe, and I finally figured out why, and I'd be glad to share that with you. But you know, there are these details that unless you have someone explain it to you in real terms, this will always remain a mystery. All right, so let me just say, you know, in case anyone has some doubt in their mind about what a heat pump is, it's very simple in a sense that you already know your air conditioner. You may have a window air conditioner or ductwork throughout the house. You have air conditioning probably, and an air conditioner is a heat pump. It simply, thank you. It simply takes, in the case of air conditioning, takes heat from inside and moves it to the outside. It doesn't really change the energy, it moves it, its location to the outside. In a home heating mode, this heat pump now, what's different about the heat pump is it runs both ways. So if you turn it, you get the little switch, turn it, it will actually pick up heat on the outside and pull it in and heat the house. And for a long time, people were having trouble with heat pumps for heating their house because it was very cold outside, not around here, but in Maine, for example. And finally, we are now at a point where people in Maine, where's Hugh? Oh, can you verify this? It's, you know, people are actually using heat pumps in very cold climates. So it just is a matter of having the right medium that you're using to move the energy from one place to another. And we'll say more about that in a bit. So there is, this is a picture of our Carrier heat pump. It's a five ton, maybe a little over kill, but it sure works very well. This is the blower inside. It's in a little closet. And this is outside, about 20 feet away. And it just works like a charm. But I'll say a little bit more about that charm next. Okay, so here is the real secret to a heat pump. And it looks a little busy, but I wanted to start with my house, which 20 years ago, when we had a gas-fired furnace, if we had 0.034 therms of natural gas about to be burned, and that just turns out to be 1 kilowatt hour, by the way. A therm is 29.307 kilowatt hours, and unless you put things together in the same units, it's difficult to compare them. So if you're really taking a kilowatt hour worth of gas and burning it with oxygen and burn it completely, it will deliver that kilowatt hour of energy to heat in some house, it's a little ball of house air, which is benefiting from that heat. Notice that what happens here is that what you put in is actually what you're creating and putting into the air. And if you define this coefficient of performance, COP is this acronym, it is not a reference to a police officer. It is defined to be the heat delivered, which would be a kilowatt hour in this case, divided by the input energy, which was, a kilowatt hour in the denominator as well. So it would be 1, which is 100% efficiency. So we're getting all of the energy that we put in is burned and delivered. Very often, marketers will say that they have 99% efficiency of their gas furnace, and I'm willing to believe that. It's not easy to do, but let's just call it 100%. For a heat pump, it's an entirely different phenomenon. Here, there is methane, which is CH4, combining with oxygen, O2, and it's producing CO2 and water. It's a chemical reaction, and there is no way you can get more energy out of this input energy. It's conservation of energy. So this has got to be at most 1 or 100% efficiency. Here with a heat pump, we're moving energy from the outside to the inside. And what's happening now is that the working substance of the heat pump is just a bunch of molecules. They remain the same molecules. They are either close together and attracting one another, or they're farther apart and diffuse. And by changing their phase, that is whether they're a liquid or a gas, you can do this trick of moving the energy with an input energy which could even be a fourth of the energy that you're moving. So you can almost see intuitively that if you're just moving energy, you don't have to have more energy than is there. You could just somehow, depending upon how you move it, you could get away with spending less energy to move the energy than to create it by burning natural gas. That is why you end up with the quotes of efficiency for heat pumps of being 200%, 300%, 400% energy efficiency. It's energy efficiency. And if you listen to our leader, this is true. there are things that, getting 600%, anyway. So going on, let me just say that I'm going to switch to actually doing something useful here. I just want to point out that there are a number of installers and companies that, and I think Ross and I have had a similar experience with Elephant Energy, and I'm continuing to have conversations with Akancha, a woman who's the general manager in the LA region. I would recommend going to elephantenergy.com and checking them out. They really are impressive. Blake Peakshuss at Stu's 5-star service, which is only about a mile from here, installed ours, and actually I think they did a good job. But that's the kind of information that I'm hoping we can collectively pull together and just share. And you can learn so much about other people's experience and what to avoid and what to duplicate. Now, the final show is, I'll let Char show you.
Thank you.
Ran into Hans somewhere.
Yes. So you've heard of water cooler conversations. This actually happened at a water fountain in Mason Hall. Hans Rindesbacher teaches German at Pomona. He teaches a class on green politics in Europe, which is highly popular for my students. We send shared students to Freiburg, where they learn all of this extraordinary sustainability work, because Freiburg is one of the great centers of it in Europe. And he has written a book about smells. So I love him, right? He's got a book called The Smells of Switzerland. Who knew? But that conversation, he had seen the poster for tonight. He couldn't come because he has another obligation. And he said, I got to tell you a story about rats. Great, this is Claremont. There are a lot of rats in this city. And the rats had taken over his air conditioning ducts, which is awful. And he finally decided that something had to happen. And if he was going to take out the ducts and put in new ducts, why put in anything? Why not make the switch now to the heat pump and try to figure out a different way of doing this? So mother is the necessity of something. In the case for him, it was the whole system had to go. It was a gas-fired system, so why not at that moment make a choice about what to do, which he did in January. So part of the joy for him was getting rid of all of this infrastructure and cleaning out attics and getting rid of rats and all of the shit, literal, that was up there. I think he's probably a lot healthier as of January as a result of having done nothing. He was already healthier, he and his wife Larissa. But part of what he also did, which I really, really liked, is to get to Dick's question of the 4 things in any of our households that we need to switch out to do this full electricity. And I'm going to ask you, what are the 4? I'm a teacher, so what are they? Don't just sort of go, yes. Water heater, HVAC, dryer, and stove, right? So he didn't know that that was the case in a theoretical sense, but he started planning for it in a way that I found really exciting because it actually dovetails with what Dick just said. So they also needed, because the house was built in 52, I think it was, with the original panel. We just went through that ourselves. And so he was going to upgrade the panel, do all of this other stuff, and the question was he going to do the 4 now, or was he going to do it later? And he decided, if I do it later, which is what he ultimately decided, why not wire the house now? So that there's lines for the cooktop, that there's a line for the dryer, that there's a line for the gas, for the water heater. So they did all of that sort of preliminary work this January, and here, like Dick, is his equipment. They also have solar, but I love the forethoughtfulness. He's Swiss, like big shock. That if you're going to do this step by step, which is probably how most of us will do this, do the hard bit first. do the setup so that you can immediately make the switch out, whichever route you take, whether it's the gas heater or whatever it may be. And this is the overview, and you can see their panels. So part of what I think he has done, and he also used Home Performance Matters, or Home, what do they call themselves now? HPM, that grew out of Hartman Baldwin, that grew out of Claremont, and now is all over the place. It's really one of these exciting accelerators that started and then just started to build out and has done quite well. And I think part of what the sustainability dialogues have done, and I think Hans's enthusiasm, even though he couldn't be here, is an example of that, is that we're not going to change that big number that you described, that big gap, in some collectivist fashion. It simply can't happen in a city of residences. You've got to do it house by house. And so part of what the sustainability dialogues have done since 2007 is to have events like this where we talk with one another about what the processes were. Chris Chin and Sorrel did one on gray water. I don't know if you remember this many, many, many years ago. And it just blew my mind. I'd been teaching gray water theoretically, and here was a household that did it. It was so cool. And I think that's part of what we get a chance to do this year and in subsequent years as we pull together these face-to-face conversations in community to talk about how we actually bridge that gap, close that gap that described, and start to pull natural gas out of our households. Another healthy thing to do, by the way. And know that we're up against financial pressures, to be sure, but when and where we can, we need to do it. It's one of the things that Milo in the back is working on this campus, is to try to get us to shift away from these fossil fuels. We've been arguing about this with the administration since 2010, if not earlier. But this crew has got some really cool ideas about thinking about how to do this. And so, we may get there. But it is also going to be the responsibility of householders, house owners, and commercial entities of one form or another to start to make the commitment, because it's not just a good thing to do, which it is, but it's also the healthiest way to go. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So I thought it would be good for Char to start off with just sharing an experience. He claims he's channeling it, which I thought was very, very good of him. But I'd really like, I have some more information I can share, but I'm really anxious to hear your thoughts and your questions and your quandary as to what are next steps and what your goals are. If you don't mind, I mean, this is a relatively small group here. I know that I got to know a little bit about people that are rebuilding in Eaton, Altadena, and that, of course, I mean, it's just an awful time in your lives, but at the same time, when you have something like rats in the duct, or you're forced to do, you're really forced to get rid of your gas-fired HVAC system, that's the time to really take advantage of the unfortunate situation you find yourselves in and plan ahead. Anyone want to contribute or ask questions about anything? Yes, please.
So I'm in a situation where
By the way, yes. We have a number of these.
Hi. I'm in a situation where I just helped our daughter install a system, so lived through the process, and now we're shopping for our house. So a couple things that I learned that I could share with you in that process. First of all, quite surprising that the company that I ended up going with really tried to completely talk me out of it. Why do you want this? Why do you want this? It's, and he gave me 10 reasons why he thought it was a bad idea. And I said, but no this, and but no that. And I've done my reading, and it's what I want. So he did install it. It's a lovely system. Our traditional system goes on, and then it goes off. And hers is just this light hum. It's lovely, and we want that. So a decision that we made in upgrading the panel that I absolutely love. It was expensive, but there was a little rebate on that too. And it literally is so smart that when she leaves her house, it knows to turn it down. Like, we can program our systems to go, on in the day and off at night, but it knew when she left, which is really nice, because then you don't always have to just pull out your phone and go, I'm going to turn off my air conditioning now, that kind of thing. So I thought that was lovely that I'm picking my system to reflect that. And then another thing is, in this, I saw yours in the closet. In her case and in ours, we're putting it in the attic and freeing up ground level space for us, which I was really excited about that, because now we won't hear the return air go on and everything. So it's a little more distant for us. Oh, and we are replacing some ductwork at their recommendation that's insulated ductwork, which makes it even more efficient, which I thought was kind of cool. So just wanted to share a little bit. I don't need to say the name of the company, but they were recommended by my previous air conditioning guy, and they did a good job, and I like the product that they want. But I'd like to hear from anybody about comparing companies, Carrier versus the different brands, if anybody has any opinions or knowledge in that regard.
Thanks. There are a couple of things you mentioned that I want to, let's see, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. There's a big revolution in technology in heat pumps, especially for HVAC. And the one that my wife and I just purchased 2 years ago, we had one in 2008, it lasted 15 years. And we had a coil problem, and we were in this unfortunate situation where it was going to cost almost as much as a new one to repair the coils, which was very irritating. But I knew that between its failure and this modern day 2 years ago, the technology used to be your HVAC system was on full blast or off completely. And so now both the blower that I showed is variable speed, and the compressor is variable speed. So now we never hear blasting on and then suddenly dying quickly. And it makes a huge amount of difference in the electricity you use to drive it. So, but I also have to say that I know exactly what you mean. When I was going around to local tradespeople, good people, with long histories of serving the community, and trying to find someone who, do you install heat pumps? And they would tell me, I installed one 20 years ago, and I'll never do it again. Literally, that's exactly, and that was not uncommon for me to get that response. And I was very discouraged. That's why I wanted to get us all together and see. I think it's a very different time now. But there are, and the rebates, I should mention that, what's the name of it? The switch is on. Actually, Concha from Elephant Energy confirmed that there are 2 programs in there that they claim are active, and they're not. but she does know that FCE has a program of rebates coming. It's going to be active at the end of April. So I'm sort of going to latch onto that, and we'll see how long. And again, there's a certain amount of money that's put in that pot, and you have to be ready and apply for it, which means you have to be installing. It's a little tricky. Yep. Peter, yes.
Not that I need it. I'm a professor too, so I can speak plenty loud. So we have panels on the roof. We decided to replace our gas-burning furnace with a heat pump. And at the same point, we decided, let's section the house into zones. So why heat and cool parts of the house? I mean, the kids are gone. Why heat? So we now have 3 zones that are independently controlled, but a single unit sitting on the roof, which is where the unit it replaced went. We also moved a water heater from an indoor closet where it was gas burning to a garage and made it a heat pump water heater. And now when I forget and go on vacation and don't turn it off, I can do that from my phone. So it doesn't necessarily know that I'm gone as the way that the thermostat does. And the latest installation is a battery system to try to make it so that we very rarely need to speak with Edison. That's a little more complicated.
What brand did you?
For the heat pump, it's a Goodman, and the recommendation there had to do with where the spare parts are made. So I think one might read that some of the Japanese brands are superior, but getting the replacement parts allegedly was much more time-consuming and expensive. So I said, that seems reasonable, I'll go with a Goodman. And a Rheem is the one for the heat pump water heater in the garage.
Anyone else? John? Shall I give one to Joe, too?
She doesn't need a mic. She's a professor as well. I'm not. We just bought an electric car, and one of my favorite things to do is to try to, convert the cost of electricity in my car to what I would spend on a gallon of gasoline. So I'm kind of curious about that analysis here. How much is the energy equivalent cost of operating these systems versus, your old gas heater, let's say? Presumably with a lot of efficiency, it's going to probably be a good comparison, but I'm curious if you know the answer to that question.
In fact, I had that question myself. And I thought of you when I was thinking about that question. So in fact, let me see if I can get back to a slide. Oh, you had it. Thank you. Is this the one? It basically is. It turns out that it really depends upon the price of electricity. You could be saving your energy efficiency. That's why I point this out. Energy efficiency is enormous, and it just swamps the gas. But if the gas is so cheap and electricity is so expensive, it can be actually more expensive to use this more efficient system. I must say that the other side of that is that if we don't do something about climate change, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. But then, everybody feels financial resource problems. I mean, I don't want to make light of them, but we've got to do something serious about climate climate change.
So I actually had a similar question to John, because I was thinking kind of bigger picture.
We'll capture you on the recording.
Can you hear me? I had a similar question because I was thinking, like my family's not in a situation where we're looking to replace any of these things right now. But to Char's point earlier, we're looking at individual households and how do we get individual households at scale to make this change, right? I'm kind of thinking like big picture. And financially, if it doesn't make sense for individual households, like that is going to be the biggest sell or the challenge to selling this, right? Is that if you make the switch, but your electricity costs more, what's going to incentivize people to stop using their gas appliances? I think, maybe it makes sense to start and target this towards people who have solar, because for those folks, it's an easy sell. My other question, kind of on this similar vein, is, I just went on that elephant website that you recommended. I was like, what would the cost be for me? And the upfront costs are significant. And so it seems like this would be for someone who was already looking to replace their existing systems. Like maybe if your system is like relatively new, 5 years old, you wouldn't be in a position to change. But this would, like, the target audience would be people who are looking to make a switch and potentially people who already have solar, and it would make sense financially to incentivize them. And so then my thought process is like, how do we reach those people, right? Like, can the city be promoting flyers about heat pumps? If you're looking to change your HVAC system or looking to change your water heater, like what is the education to get to those people who are looking to make those changes? So not really a question, but just thoughts in my mind.
I think one of the incentives, especially in Claremont. Anyway, one of the incentives is rats. Right? We could just let it go.
So import more rat, is that?
Just get the citrus growing. They know where it is. But some of it is a sense of urgency, and the fact that the EPA is no longer extant means that we're not going to get the data from them. So we have to do it absent that data and absent most of the federal incentives, which is why the state needs to do the work that it needs to do. Because that's one of the ways of bridging that gap between what it's going to cost me and the capacity to incentivize me to do it. And you just moved into your house, so you've got to buy for a bit.
The heat pumps have SEER rating, or like
Let's capture your
I'm sorry, are heat pumps SEER rated like your HVAC systems or not? Are the heat pumps SEER rated, S-E-E-R?
Oh, yes.
Rated like current HVAC systems?
Yes, absolutely. And, it's very competitive.
It's in the bid.
Oh, I think you may even see the picture. Anyway.
Since we're talking about incentives, like rebates and credits and things like that, it feels like that landscape has changed quite a bit and changed often. There were federal rebates and, I guess tax credits, and then the state has stepped in. But is there a good source for getting kind of the macro picture of what's out there currently? And what would that source be?
Yeah. That's the key question. So as I was thinking about this evening, I knew that people would be interested in rebates and so forth. And so I emailed Akantra at Elephant Energy, and she got right back to me and confirmed that there were two. Usually you go to the Switches On website, but there are two programs there that she said are on pause. They're not dead, but they're on pause. They've run out of funds, but they're still listing them as active. And instead, she said, you need to go to HPP, which is really Home Performance Plus, which I didn't, but it's an SCE program. So SCE puts money in these programs, a big hunk of money up front, and then you need to be, on their webpage and aware at the time that you happen to be installing or thinking about installing. And that's the way it works now. I don't see any other way around it. But the rebates can be thousands of dollars for a heat pump, for example. And if your HVAC heat pump, 4 or 5 tons, could run somewhere between 15 and 20K. And I just two years ago got $3,000 deducted from a collection of rebates. All of that was done for me by Blake at Steve's 5-star service. Again, we need in this group, I think, to be very even-handed and just share experiences. But I'm not saying Steve's is the best thing, to hit the market, or that Elephant Energy is fantastic. I haven't had any real exchange, any job done by them yet. So I'm still waiting to see how that's going to turn out. But I think it's really important for us not only to share information about the technology, about how it can be that this heat pump is 300% efficient. I mean, doesn't that sound like a non-starter? I mean, but really it's true in a certain sense, in a meaningful sense. And at the same time, knowing something about the technology and knowing what the limits of the technology are and what the technology is replacing, and then knowing who's going to give you some rebates to get you over that sort of hump to where, okay, this is an opportunity. We've got a malfunctioning appliance on our hands. We have to do something. Let's go for a heat pump, but let's try and get as much help from society at large as possible. I think it's on.
Okay, hello. Have you done any side-by-side comparisons that would help people understand the costs? And I don't mean like the cosmic costs. I mean the actual hard, cold cash costs. If you were to say, okay, my furnace died, I need to replace it, I could either go, the old traditional gas furnace route, or I could go the heat pump route, and this would cost X, this would cost Y, the pluses and minuses. Is there anything that summarizes that kind of thing that would help us pitch this? I live at Pilgrim Place, and we are very interested in trying to get our leadership excited about having this be something that happens when we have to replace things in the independent living houses. They have made a commitment to do that in our assisted living facility, which is really great. And we're excited that that's going to kind of bring heat pumps into Pilgrim Place in a way that they haven't really acknowledged lately. But I think we need some ammo.
The straight answer is no. That is, I've certainly compared estimates from as I went looking for a heat pump. And for, I'll have to say that I wasn't so concerned about the price. The prices were all roughly comparable. I was really more concerned about the quality and whether I believed the person I was talking to. I mean, some people really don't understand the technology, and it becomes very clear. But as you were talking, I realized that in my conversation with a contra from Elephant Energy, she was urging me to come to a meeting, I think it's like 15th or 16th of April in downtown LA, where they would be discussing group purchases. That is, if we as a group suddenly found ourselves with 2 or 3 or 4 households who wanted to get, you know, the installation costs and the ordering costs and so forth is a significant discount. And so it struck me then that I guess I should find a way to get downtown and participate in that conversation. So really reaching out to me for whatever reason. But there's, I think, a real possibility for us to group together, and the larger the group, the more likely we are to have people who are looking for heat pumps for water heaters.
And I would say that that's what Clean Power Alliance is. It's a collectivist process, city by city, and I don't know if it's 30, 40, or 50 or whatever they have now, but it's now the 3rd largest purveyor of energy in the state. And 10 years ago, that wasn't true. So that's a pretty quick transition for this culture. Joe.
I have 2 questions. The first question starts with that image of Hans's new heat pump. Yeah, that one. Is that the old heat pump next to it? That's part of my question. Do you have both? You get rid of the old thing, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, that was that question, really. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay. Maybe they're still installing or something, so it's not quite go yet. Okay. My second question is, do you all have thoughts on pools? Both in terms of the filter mechanism as well as the heat mechanism? Swimming pools? Swimming pools? Swimming pools. Ross has thoughts.
Yeah, so for pools, solar thermal heating is kind of the best way to go. It's not electric. You put up a series of tubes up on the top of your house, and it just absorbs, soaks in the sun, and then pumps that heat into the pool. Is that what you're referring to? Like how to heat a pool?
That would work for the pool well, I think. I'm not sure it would work for a hot tub.
Yeah. Hot tubs are, I don't know. If they're electric, then you can use solar and battery. That's probably the way to go. Could I say a couple other things? Yeah. Cool. All right, so I've made a list, so I'll try and be brief. One, the important part about everything here is to make a plan. The thing that you don't want to do is your air conditioner breaks this summer and you don't know what to do. Or your induction oven or your gas oven or something. So make a plan. That being said, one way to make a plan is to go to a website called rewiringamerica.com, Rewiring America. It's an excellent source. If up in the top corner, there's make a plan to electrify your house, and it can answer some of the questions about what is it going to cost to do this, what's the cost comparison for gas, like this woman up here was asking, like, what am I going to save, am I going to save an amount, things like that. One of the things that Isabel mentioned was that if electricity rates are really high and gas rates are really low, are you going to save energy? My understanding is one of the things that the Public Utilities Commission is trying to do is trying to lower per kilowatt hour rates while slightly raising the like service costs that you pay. And so you pay an upfront a little more, but for every kilowatt hour, you pay less. And so it's supposedly in their mind an encouragement to use more electricity, because once you've paid that flat fee, then it costs more per kilowatt hour. And so they're trying to address this move to electrification because of that. Whether you're interested in replacing an HVAC, system now or not, one thing you can do for your home is insulation and windows. You can have a professional come out to do a home energy audit. They can look at whether you have insulation in your attic, whether you have insulation in your walls. Are your windows single pane, double pane, or maybe even triple pane? Insulation pays off. Whether you have gas, it pays off in the winter and it pays off in the summer. It keeps your cool air in the summer and keeps cold air out in the winter. So insulation is a way to go, along with that envelope sealing. So that's things you can do as well. And that will save you energy. And a lot of times, if you do a better job of insulating, you can then buy a smaller unit. Like I think Dick said that he had a 5-ton unit. That's a pretty hefty unit there, but if you might need that if you have an uninsulated or a not well insulated home, or if it's larger or something like that. But they can do a calculation that if you have better insulation, your home is going to lose this much energy, and now we can go with a smaller unit because your house is losing less of that energy as you go through. So insulation, envelope sealing, better windows, all of that, like envelope sealing is really important. Somebody asked about brands. There were, like Carrier, and then there's a kind of a subgroup of all use Carrier products. I think it's Carrier and Night and Day and maybe one or two others. Carrier and the Goodman Armana are kind of the good, but not like top of the line products. They're easier to repair because they are easier to get parts. A company like Trane is a little more high end, like your mid-high end kind of system. And then as far as I know, Linux is kind of the most expensive system. It's kind of a bespoke system. Linux parts are hard to get, things like that. So you should certainly talk to your own HVAC installer about recommendations and things like that. The other thing I would say about installers is that go with someone who has done this before and knows how to do this, right? And preferably someone who tries not to talk you out of putting in an HVAC system. Because it is important. These are, systems that need to be installed right. If they're installed right, they're going to last for a long time. They're going to give you virtually zero problems. If they're installed wrong, if there are leaks, if there's problems like that, then that's when people don't like their heat pumps because it wasn't installed correctly. So, yeah. Last thing I have is through Rewiring America, I did this program called Electric Coaching. And so if you want to contact me, I have ecoachsgv@gmail.com if you have further questions. So yeah. Yeah, eCoach, like electric eCoach SGV. HGV, San Gabriel Valley, yeah. So yeah.
What kind of sealing did you say? With the insulation, you said insulation and some...
Oh, sorry, envelope sealing. That just means making sure that the entire house, caulking, gaps around doors and windows, things like that. Gaps in any place in your house. So it's insulation and envelope sealing. They kind of go together like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I promised everyone to end at 8, and here we are at 5:03. So let me just say thank you for coming. I think this is really encouraging. We had no idea whether anyone would come, and we've got some really interesting folks and enthusiastic folks. So please, just if you don't mind, leave your contact information, and we will then let you know what the dates are for the next dialogues and supply information as we get, for example, rebate stuff is sort of like a hot news item, you know, so you have to get it right away. We'll keep you posted as to what's happening, and we'll see if we can't generate an ongoing community of folks interested in pushing back.
Can I say one more thing? Hey, so I missed something on my list. The one thing that I wish I had done when I put in an HVAC system is there's something called a heat recovery ventilation system. And so if you do the insulation, if you do the ceiling of your house, what that means is that the air inside stays inside much better, the air outside doesn't come in. And so the thing that a heat recovery ventilation system does is it exchanges the air, it recovers the heat that's inside or outside, and it filters that air before you bring it in. So that was the one thing that I would add to my system. So.
Redo your email?
Sure. It's ecoachhg@gmail.
Is that San Gabriel Valley?
Electric
well,
coach
thank you.
Claremont was just waiting.
Thank you, and let us know. We'll stay in touch, and we'll try to get, to the extent that you like your contact information shared, we'll do that, or if not, we'll not do it. We'll be sensitive to that. So thanks for coming, and have a lovely